If there's an emotional charge, that's just an indicator. So if you have a feeling of anger, if you have a feeling of judgment, if you have a feeling of reaction, if you know that you feel triggered, that's an indication that you're being invited to look within and just say, how would I like to heal myself in relation to this? It's not that you're endorsing the thinking, it's not that you're endorsing the behavior. You're just saying, I love myself so much that I am taking sovereignty over my energy field. Someone heard me say that recently and they said, oh, that's healthy boundaries. So if you like that language better, you're choosing to exercise healthy boundaries. And you're just saying to yourself, I can't control that person was discourteous to me. I can choose how would I like to respond. And you notice the shift.
Good morning. Good morning, Swami. Good morning, everybody. And welcome to our Truth, Love, and Justice series. The topic today is, am I the creator of my own reality? So I'm really excited to dive into this topic with you. I'll just get into it. Our very first question is, what do I actually mean when I say my reality? Swami, do you want to start?
We could talk about this all day and the whole rest of the week. So one of the ways to look at this is that each of us, if you turn within and you connect with yourself on the level of the heart or the level of the soul, the level of the light within you, you're always connected to supreme reality. So you're always connected to the divine. You're always connected to balance and ease, resourcefulness, pure creative energy. It expresses perfectly through each of us according to our own talents, our own skills, our own accent, wherever we find ourselves. We're always connected. And so when we remember reality, that's what we remember. And I think the question also compassionately guides us to consider our personality selves. And so these are our human selves, which have likes, they have dislikes, they have things that they would prefer to encounter, they have things that they would not prefer to encounter. And these are the aspects of ourselves that, part of our human journey, I think there's an inner aspect of each human that is like, I experienced something so painful. Was there something wrong with me? Did I do something wrong because I lived through that 6-year period of pain in my life? Or for some people, it's much longer than 6 years. And so this is for that aspect of ourselves. And one of the things that Swami Shankarananda shared, and I came across it this week, and I'm just going to share it in his exact words. He's speaking from the soul level. So he's not necessarily saying that our personality selves have chosen this, but he's saying from the soul level. Each of us has chosen to be where we are in life and to do what we are doing and to experience what we are experiencing. But with this proviso, we can keep changing. There is no such thing as staying stuck in any place, in any relationship, in any job, in any part of the world, in any neighborhood. There's no such thing because we always have freedom of choice from one moment to the next moment. So for example, recently a person said, I experienced this really challenging 6-year period in my life, but I now realize I would not be who I am if I had not gone through that. I would not have created the family I have created, the life I have created. I would not be where I am geographically or in any other way unless I had gone through that. And so that's an example where on a soul level, it's likely that soul chose, I'm going to go through these challenges. It's part of my lifetime curriculum. And on the other side of it, if I choose to keep the wisdom, and I ask myself, what would I love to create? Do I want to do more of that? Or would I prefer to create something else? Then on the other side of it, there's this incredible opportunity for expansion. There's this incredible opportunity for growth. And that's what that particular person encountered and experienced. And so that's the opportunity that's open to each of us, to not think that there's anything wrong with us, whatever we have experienced, but to just say, do I want to keep creating more of that, or would I like to create something else? So every moment, it's a fresh new opportunity to create in connection with that pure source energy. We're always connected and we're always creating.
Thank you, Swami. I want to start with a meme that maybe you've seen before because it's been traveling around the internet for a few years. And it's a meme of it's a cartoon meme, so I'll say that, two guys who are on a bus. And on one side of the bus, a guy is looking out of the window and he has the biggest smile on his face. And through the window, he sees beautiful rolling mountains and a beaming sun in the sky above. On the opposite side of a bus is another gentleman who's also looking out the window. And he's looking a little morose, he doesn't look very happy. And out of his window, there is a gray, cold rock face. And what I love about this meme, which the caption says, "Sometimes it's just us," is that our reality, the reality that we experience personality-wise, is based on what's inside of us. So we don't always perceive reality as it is, we perceive reality as we are. And in that way, it's our thoughts, it's our beliefs, it's our perceptions that shape our experience, that shape our world. That is the reality that you are in control of. That is the reality that I am in control of. What is my inner state of consciousness? From which I reside in that inner state of consciousness, that is the place from which I perceive. Then there's the absolute reality, which Swami was just speaking about. That reality is unchanged. It is what it is, no matter how you're perceiving. No matter if you're angry, no matter if you're upset, no matter if the sun is shining and you're passing by some rolling mountains, or the sun is not shining and you are rolling past a cold rock face. And you can interpret that in the way that I mean it, which means if you are having challenges or if it feels easy, the supreme truth is unchanged. Pure consciousness is unchanged. All of our experience emerges out of that. In one story, Vishnu is described as blooming all of everything that is out of his navel. So out of pure consciousness, everything blooms. And again, we can shape our reality, not as much as like experience. Divine grace is the controller of all experiences. But what we're in control of is how we meet reality. I have an opportunity to meet reality with absolute joy and delight. It does not mean that if I feel anger, I don't acknowledge my anger. I feel angry in this moment, and I'm willing to let it go. I'm willing to see reality as it truly is. It does not mean that I will not experience grief. I'm willing to be grieving in this moment, but I'm willing to go even deeper to that which is unchanging, that love that is within me. So we can approach reality from two perspectives, but it's really the one thing. So there is that which we are in control of, and the more we align our inner reality with the ultimate reality, the more that we're living the ultimate reality. So that's the game that we're all playing right now as yogis. We are aligning our inner state of consciousness to the state of consciousness that is the true only thing. And as long as we're playing the game of this, I'm up, I'm down, I'm left, I'm right, it makes it really hard to be steady and to see reality as it truly is. But the more we practice, the more we get better at being steady. It's like, again, going back to that meme of being on the bus. I'm on a bus called life, and as I navigate, sometimes there will be mountains, sometimes there will be cold rock faces. And either way, pure consciousness is with me. Either way, I am in contact with love. Either way, grace is with me. Alrighty, our next question. What part of me is creating my experience? Is it my thoughts? Is it my feelings? So we kind of touched on this in the previous question. Our thoughts, our emotions are like magnets. I think I once talked about it referencing X-Men, if anybody is familiar with the character Magneto, who has this super magnet ability. Magneto's magnet is so strong that he can draw to him something 100 miles away. And so it is with each of us. We are a Magneto in our own way. And so the state of consciousness, the emotional output, think of them like charges. we are drawing to us that which is more like itself. And so in that way, our thoughts, our emotions, our inner state of consciousness is, again, shaping the relatively real. So we are responsible for that. And then on the other hand, we're not kind of responsible for the events that show up. Again, pure consciousness is the sovereign source of all things. And so that means that my soul, at the level of soul, there's just a map for me. There is a plan that when I came into this body, when you came into this body, when all people came into their bodies for you, pure consciousness wants to work through you in a specific way. And so that means that there are certain events that will show up. And again, it's like being on that bus. Some of those events are going to feel like a shining, warm sun, and some of them will not, right? But what I'm responsible for is how I show up to that event, if that makes sense. Ramakrishna, and I do have his quote here, he described it like being a cow tied to a tree by a rope. So basically, he says that humans are like a cow, and you are tied to this rope. You are tied by a rope to a tree. And as your free will feels like, man, I can go over here and I can go do that. But pure consciousness is kind of like controlling everything. We think that, if we're confused, I'll say this, we think that we are in control of all things. But the pleasure comes from acknowledging, I'm just a cow tied to a tree of pure consciousness. Once we can acknowledge that, it's total peace, because we have access to the pasture that is relevant for us. Everything that I need is here. Everything, every idea that I need is here. Every conversation that I need is here. Every relationship that I need is here, if I am allowing that to show up for me. I'll stop there, Swami, you got it.
You are great. I was like laughing so hard, I think a few tears came to my eyes. So let's give another practical example. So someone recently was talking about someone behaved in a discourteous manner to them. And I want to be really clear, I'm not endorsing behaving in a discourteous manner, right? But so then the person who was on the receiving end of the discourteous behavior got to choose, like, how would I like to respond? And they found themselves talking to a friend, and they started to repeat the story about the discourteous behavior. And then they realized, I don't actually want to do that. Because if I start talking about this discourteous behavior, then it's actually in my energy field. I'm recreating it. I'm reproducing it for myself. So that person had sufficient self-awareness that before they went on re-energizing the non-preferred, they stopped. And they said, I don't actually want to create more of that. And so for each of us, just to kind of self-reflect and have self-awareness, one of the things that Acharya Kashi was talking about was, if there's an emotional charge, that's just an indicator. So if you have a feeling of anger, if you have a feeling of judgment, if you have a feeling of reaction, if you know that you feel triggered, that's an indication that you're being invited to look within and just say, how would I like to heal myself in relation to this? It's not that you're endorsing the thinking, it's not that you're endorsing the behavior. You're just saying, I love myself so much that I am taking sovereignty over my energy field. Someone heard me say that recently, and they said, oh, that's healthy boundaries. So if you like that language better, you're choosing to exercise healthy boundaries. And you're just saying to yourself, I can't control that person was discourteous to me. I can choose how would I like to respond. And you notice the shift. If I say, how would I like to respond, then I'm back choosing from my center. Whereas if I just repeat the discourteousness, then I'm rolling with the discourteousness, and that's more flowing into time and space through me unintentionally. So I'm back choosing and deciding, I'm back exercising my freedom of will within cosmic will. So that's the way the Bhagavad Gita puts it. I have freedom of will within cosmic will. And so this person, not only did they not repeat the story, after reflection, they actually performed an act of kindness and helpfulness toward the person who had been discourteous. And for them, I mean, just you can feel the healing. You can feel there's no quarrel, there's nothing to fight, there's nothing to fix, there's nothing that person is struggling with, there's just healing. And there's just love. And so this person would never say that about themselves, but they were exercising self-mastery, which is what each of us is always invited to do. And it's just, do I love myself so much that I choose not to react? If I notice that I have an invitation to react, I pause, I take a step back, and I just say, what would I like to create? What would I like to create? Those humans are creating that. What would I like to create? They're exercising their freedom of choice. How would I love to exercise my freedom of choice? And then notice I'm actually free in relation to the non-preferred behavior.
Welcome. My name's Dhruv, and you have arrived at Awake Yoga Meditation. If you are enjoying this content, please consider subscribing below, liking, or sharing this content. It helps get the word out. And if you're interested in deepening your happiness and joy in your life, consider subscribing to our Substack or going to our website at awakeyogameditation.org for more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Swami. I'll add one more thing before going to the next question that was inspired by what you just said, Swami, about our creative power. That each of us as humans are imbued with a potent creative power, and we are constantly creating. And that includes how we respond to experience. So one thing that Porna and I love to do is we love to go hiking, and we get to hike all over. And something that's really fun for us, we honestly just feel overwhelmed with it while we're out, we just feel so inspired, and it's like, this is what we came for, like this is what we live for. And it just echoes wherever we are. And just bringing that energy to your everyday life. This is what we came for. This is what we live for. And there is so much potent creative energy behind that purview, behind that perspective. And as folks with the power to create, often we want to create a relationship, or we want to rendezvous with the perfect job, or we want $1 million. And I will say this, if you have an internal spark that is divinely oriented, you've checked in with yourself, man, this feels like what I came here for, this is what I live for, it's okay to put the effort into that, to direct your attention to that, keeping in mind the energy of non-attachment and to surrender, remembering that ultimately, if it is God's will for us, we will rendezvous with it. We don't have to be concerned or attached to anything, because what is for us is for us. There ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river deep enough to keep us apart from what we are. We will rendezvous in time and space with what is most important and relevant for us to rendezvous with. And so if we keep that in mind, it makes it just so much more fun to be in a human body. And this next question kind of seamlessly moves into that. In relation to free will and divine will, how am I responsible for myself? Swami, do you want to start?
So I think we've been talking about this maybe all along. We all have freedom of will within cosmic will. And so if you think about what Kashi said earlier, what Acharya Kashi said earlier, think of it as like we have a divine blueprint for our life. And one of the things that happens when you meditate is you come into contact with this divine blueprint for your life. You become aware, this is natural to me to express my talents, to express my life energy in this particular way. And so this could be everything from like you, if it's natural for you to have kids, it'll just happen. It unfolds as naturally as breathing, that you will have kids and you will raise kids. Doesn't mean every moment of raising kids will be super easy. I see people smiling. But that's part of the gift that the divine is giving you in this lifetime, that you are unfolding as you raise your kids. Your kids are unfolding as they work with you, as their beautiful parent, and that there's a divine gift that both souls are receiving. And so for each of us to just have this awareness, like none of us is ever separate from divine love. None of us is ever separate from divine support. And a lot of it is just moving through life with that inner knowingness, like that inner confidence, that inner assuredness. And that's another thing someone said to me recently. They're doing the same work, but they said all of a sudden now there's just this inner confidence. There's this inner assuredness, like they walk into the room and there's just like, here we are. And so when you have that feeling of just being fully present and allowing the divine to work through you, what you're in contact with is infinite inventiveness, infinite resourcefulness, infinite energy. You're in contact with the energy of harmony and the energy of connection, and it shifts what can come out of that room. So they were talking about a workplace situation, but it's also true for families as well. So as you shift your energy and your consciousness and your connection, and you come from being centered in that divine energy, it will transform your experiences that you have, the encounters that you have with your family, with your colleagues at work, even just like interacting with strangers on the sidewalk or on the bus or on the train. And so each of us is responsible for what are the thoughts that I am thinking? What are the feelings that I am feeling? What am I imagining? What am I projecting? What choices am I making? Those things are in my purview. And the metaphor that you shared earlier from Ramakrishna is a really great example. Each of us has our purview. So just kind of notice, where are the domains in which you operate? So you've probably got like a family domain, some people have a work domain, some people have a neighborhood domain. So just think about what are the domains in which you operate, and then just listen quietly within yourself and ask, how would the divine like to be of service here through me? A lot of this is allowing. A lot of this arises from being. So I think from our human perspective, a lot of times we think it's all about doing, and it is important to do. But let your doing come deeply from a sense of being within yourself. Let your words come from stillness within yourself. Let your actions come from being connected with the divine within yourself.
Thank you, Swami. Okay, I'll start with a story. I came across a video last week. It was from a young man who rods for a rod sharing service. And he was out at work and he gets a ping and he recognizes the name. That name is very special to him, but it's spelled differently. Over 20 years ago, he lost his brother to the foster care system. So anytime he sees this name, it's like a heartfelt reminder of his brother. And he heads over to the location to pick up the guy. They're talking and driving through a neighborhood that's familiar to them both. The passenger says, "Man, I haven't been to this neighborhood in over 20 years. My family used to live off of a street over here." And the driver says, "Where did your family live? I also lived on a street over here." And he says, "Oh, we lived off of Boone Street." And the driver kind of like, his heart stops a little bit. And he says, was your mom this person? And she says, "Yeah, she used to always do this." He pulls the car over and he says, "Do you still have that scar on your knee from when we used to play soccer?" And he takes off his hat, the passenger, and he says, "Are you my brother?" And he says, "Yes." He's like, "I thought you were dead. I've been looking for you for 20 years. 20 years. I know, I did the same thing. And then when I told Porna, she did the same thing. And I said, "I don't know how, but this has to fit in on the Truth, Love, and Justice talk." And then it just worked. It worked. And it worked. And what I thought it was a beautiful demonstration of free will and divine will and how pure consciousness works on our behalf. And so what that brother did, the events were the events. He showed up, he did his work. He was in his everyday life at work, just going about it. He didn't force it. He wasn't at least on the video, he wasn't like, "I was so angry at the world." He was just like, "Man, I loved my brother." And he let that love guide him for 20 years. And divine will's part of that. The divine is lining things up for us in ways that we cannot imagine, that goes beyond the capacity of the human mind to even understand it. And also, this is about divine timing. So the way that, the story is just so incredible because the passenger brother, he was not even supposed to catch an Uber that day. He booked a last minute flight and just so happened to, he was still running late. And because he was running late, he called the Uber at the exact same time that his brother just so happened to be in the vicinity. You see how perfect that is? That's happening in your life. And that is happening in my life. And that is happening in the life of every human on the planet. In the midst of pain, in the midst of human challenge, in the midst of human conditions. So fear not when you see across your screens cries of torment and pain. Pure consciousness is at play in all of it. Know there is a master hand at work in a way that we don't understand, but in a way that heals hearts, that transforms us. And know that you're in the perfect place for the perfect rendezvous. Wherever I am, I'm just about my daily life. I'm just driving through life right now. I'm answering the call. I'm showing up. I'm open-hearted. I'm putting in the effort. I'm meditating. I'm practicing the teachings to the best of my ability. I'm willing to let go. I'm non-attached, just driving through life. And the divine will take care of everything. Ramakrishna said, let God be your power of attorney. Hand it over. Gosh, I've been so liberated since I've chosen that choice. And it is a choice. And it is a choice that we keep choosing. Because boy, it's easy to want to get back to holding the reins. But that burns, that rope burns. So as often as we can, we should let go. And we should just let the divine do what the divine does. All right, our last question. What's the line between what is my work and when I surrender? Swami, why don't you start?
Sure. Just so much gratitude and love. Thank you for sharing that story about the brothers. And for everyone to tune in, and Acharya Kashi was inviting us to feel that, but the same support, the same love is with you every single breath, every moment, every heartbeat. The reality is non-separateness. And so that was an example of non-separateness made visible through those two brothers. But to know that it's equally true for you, that which upholds the whole universe upholds you every single moment of your existence, no matter what you're walking through. And so this one, what is the line between what is my work and when I surrender? So I came up with a really practical example for this. Several years ago, a doctor was talking to me about studying for boards. And some of you probably know doctors every 10 years have to study and take boards to basically show, like, I'm still up to speed, I'm learning the new knowledge in the field, I'm assimilating all of this. And so this doctor was commenting, he's studied for boards a couple times. And he was like, 10 years later, my brain is different, and I have different wisdom, and I have different self-awareness. And so he was commenting that this time around, he was more self-aware about when am I reaching the point of diminishing returns. So he was still doing the work. He was putting in the hours, like you have to, otherwise you're not going to learn the material. But he was self-aware enough to know, okay, my brain is actually kind of saturated right now. And it would be helpful if I went and said hi to my kids, or I took my dog for a walk, or I said hi to my spouse. And that actually helped his brain also with learning as well. So to have that awareness, and obviously that's specific to that particular profession, but for us, whatever our work is, cultivate that same self-awareness. So it's really important for us to bring our energy, bring our willingness to work, bring our skills, and keep learning, keep growing always. One of the things that Dr. King said was basically if you stop learning, that's like not living anymore. And so keep learning because it helps us all be fully alive, whatever our work is, wherever we are. And then also develop that it's a talent, and it's also kind of a tactfulness and kindness in relation to yourself, that you don't keep pushing yourself. Like if your brain is saturated, then you actually start to burn yourself out a little bit if you keep pushing yourself. So to cultivate that self-awareness, and that's a kind of self-mastery as well, to know that sleep helps, nourishing food helps. You were talking about mountain climbing. Even if you can't climb a mountain, take a 5-minute walk, go sit under a tree for 5 minutes. So to just kind of have that self-pacing. And then we've, I think, been talking about this all the way through, but it was a teaching Swami Shankarananda loved, and it's a teaching from the Tao Te Ching. Do your work and then step back. And so to ask yourself with clarity, have I done absolutely everything that I possibly can? And then I get to step back. And it's perfectly fine when you're doing that to ask and to listen, to say to Divine Grace, it seems that I'm doing everything I possibly can. I'm open to listening. Is there any way else that I can be helpful? This all belongs to you. All of this belongs to you. This life belongs to you. This body belongs to you. This mind belongs to you. This heart belongs to you. Whatever the endeavor is, it belongs to you. And so to remember as well, we're just sort of, for any of us, we just work here. Like, the divine is in charge. And so keep listening to the divine. And it also, that really puts things in perspective, and it keeps with a sense of humor, because I think we want to be sincere. Really important. We want to be present. We want to be responsive, but please don't take yourself too seriously. Keep your sense of humor, keep your sense of lightheartedness, keep your sense of playfulness, keep your sense of laughter, and allow the wisdom and the joy and the good humor to be with you continually, supporting you and guiding you.
Thank you, Swami. I don't have anything to add to that other than that verse from the Tao Te Ching, do your work and step back, is one of my favorite verses from any scripture of all time, and I live by that. And I invite anybody who would love to practice it to just practice it. Write it down, put it anywhere where you are, at your desk, on the wall so you see it when you wake up, and notice how your life will transform. Because it is just such a wonderful practice to know that I get to do my part, but I just get to do my part. And then the rest is up to God. Man, that is so fun and liberating. And I love that quote. I just want to say it's like not just a great quote, it's a great way to live. Yeah. Amen.